Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want, but that's not freedom. That's just impulse in disguise. True freedom is doing what's right even when you don't feel like it. It's choosing action over excuse, clarity over chaos, discipline over distraction. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man is free the moment he masters himself. That moment doesn't come when life gets easier. It comes when you get stronger, when you stop letting your cravings, your emotions, your fears run the show." This video isn't about restriction. It's about self-respect. It's about becoming someone you can trust, no matter what life throws your way. Because freedom isn't found in doing less. It's found in mastering more of yourself. Let's begin. The modern illusion of freedom. Let me ask you something. Are you truly free or just following your impulses on autopilot? Because here's the hard truth. Most people who say, "I'm just living free," aren't free at all. They're just undisciplined, reactive, distracted, and somewhere deep down, they know it. Think about it. The modern image of freedom has been twisted. We see people sleeping in, skipping responsibilities, binge watching, overspending, overreacting, and calling that liberation. But is that really freedom? Is it freedom when your phone controls your attention before your feet even touch the ground in the morning? Is it freedom when you say yes to every craving, every urge, every emotional high and low, and then wonder why you feel lost, scattered, and empty? Let's be honest. Scrolling mindlessly for hours doesn't make you free. Procrastinating doesn't make you free. Overindulging in food, entertainment, drama, or dopamine, that's not freedom. That's just comfortable self-destruction. It feels good in the moment, but it costs you clarity, confidence, and long-term control. It's like calling a ship with no captain free just because it's drifting with the tide. But what it's really doing is crashing slowly. True freedom, as Stoic philosophy teaches us, is the ability to govern yourself, especially when your impulses are screaming at you to do the opposite. Marcus Aurelius said it best. A man is free the moment he masters himself. Mastery, not indulgence. Discipline, not distraction. Direction, not chaos. You see, there's a dangerous illusion at the heart of modern life. We confuse escape with liberation. We think doing what I feel like means I'm choosing for myself. But if you're not conscious of the forces pulling your strings, your urges, your emotions, your habits, then you're not choosing at all. You're being chosen by algorithms, by addictions, by convenience, by fear. Stoicism flips this illusion on its head. Instead of asking, "What do I want right now?" a Stoic asks, "What choice aligns with my highest self, even if it's hard?" That's the pivot. That's the awakening. Real freedom isn't found in doing what feels good. It's found in doing what's right, even when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, or unnoticed. It's choosing clarity over chaos, purpose over impulse, stillness over constant noise. And here's what's most empowering. You don't need to wait for your circumstances to change. You don't need more time, money, or external validation. All you need is to start reclaiming your attention, your choices, your habits, because until you do, you are not in control. Your cravings are, your emotions are, your unchecked patterns are. Freedom isn't the absence of rules. It's the presence of intentionality. And that starts right now, in small moments, in choosing to pause before reacting, in choosing to wake up without grabbing your phone, in choosing to say no to what numbs you and yes to what grows you. So ask yourself honestly, are you living free or just living comfortably numb? And if the answer shakes you a little, good, because that's where real change begins. Stoic truth. Freedom requires restraint. Let me ask you something. Have you ever done something you instantly regretted? Not because someone forced you to, but because you couldn't stop yourself? You snapped at someone you love. You overspent on something you didn't need. You scrolled for hours knowing it was a waste of time. And afterward, you told yourself, I don't know why I did that. That's not freedom. That's slavery in disguise. We like to think we're free just because we have options, because no one is stopping us. But the truth is, if you can't say no to your own urges, then you're not the master. You're the servant of impulses, cravings, and invisible scripts that run your life without your permission. Epictetus said it best, no man is free who is not master of himself. Let that sink in, because freedom isn't found in doing whatever you feel like doing. It's found in having the strength to not do what you know will harm you. We live in a world obsessed with stimulation. Quick fixes, constant noise, endless dopamine. You feel bored, scroll. You feel tired, coffee. You feel sad, buy something. You feel insecure, post online, seek validation. And it feels like freedom, right? Because no one's stopping you. But what if that freedom is actually a trap? The more you chase those small spikes of pleasure, the more fogged your mind becomes. And the more you lose your ability to see clearly, to choose consciously, to act wisely. You become reactive, always responding to the next notification, the next craving, the next emotion. And the worst part, you start calling that normal. But the Stoics knew a different way. They believed freedom doesn't come from indulgence. It comes from restraint, from the ability to pause, to choose, to hold the line. Let's talk about the difference between reaction and deliberate action. Reaction is automatic. It's the snapback, the default, the untrained mind. Deliberate action, that's when you take a breath before responding, when you feel the urge to react, but choose silence instead. When you feel the pull of comfort, but take the harder, better path. It's not always glamorous, and it's rarely easy. But here's the reward. The more you resist short-term pleasure, the more you unlock long-term clarity. You begin to see what really matters. You stop being pulled by the mood of the moment. You start choosing from a place of power, not pressure. That's real freedom. Modern psychology agrees with the Stoics on this. Our brains are wired for habit loops. If you keep feeding the craving grows. But if you practice awareness, if you train your mind to observe without obeying, you weaken the loop. This is emotional discipline. And it's not about repression. It's not about pretending you don't feel things. It's about not letting feelings hijack your life. When you feel envy, don't act from it. When you feel anger, don't let it speak for you. When you feel empty, don't fill it with distractions. That's the path of the Stoic. Not cold, not numb, but awake, aware, in control. So here's the mindset shift we need. Discipline isn't punishment. It's protection, it's peace, it's power. When you choose to delay gratification, you're not suffering. You're training. You're becoming someone who can trust themselves. Someone who doesn't collapse under pressure. Someone who doesn't need external rules to do what's right because they've built the strength to self-govern. And isn't that what true freedom is? The ability to trust yourself with your own power. Look around. Most people are not free. They're just loud, just reactive, just overstimulated. But you can choose differently. Start small. Pause before that impulse purchase. Take a breath before sending that angry text. Say no when every part of you wants to say yes, for comfort, for escape, for ease. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to practice. Because every small moment of restraint is a brick in the foundation of your freedom. Every conscious choice is a message to your brain. I'm no longer living on autopilot. I'm taking the wheel. And over time, you don't just become stronger, you become free. What's one area of your life where you've been reacting on impulse, and what would it look like to pause instead? Because maybe the most powerful thing you can do today is to not do what you've always done, not to obey every feeling, not to chase every thrill, but to stay still, to choose with intention, and to remember freedom isn't a feeling, it's a practiced skill. And that skill begins with restraint. The prison of comfort. Let me ask you something. Are you truly free or just comfortably trapped? Because sometimes what we call peace is just avoidance. What we label as balance is really fear of discomfort. And what we mistake for freedom is just a quiet prison we've decorated with soft pillows and justifications. We say, I'm protecting my peace, but deep down we're protecting our patterns. We say, I'm honoring rest, but really we're avoiding the hard things. We say, I'll wait for the right mood. But what if the mood never comes? You see, the comfort zone is seductive. It feels warm, safe, familiar. But here's the truth. Comfort is a golden cage. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't trap you with chains. It lulls you with routine. You don't even notice it tightening around you until your dreams start shrinking to fit inside it. Think about it. You skip the workout because it's cold outside. You avoid the conversation because it might be uncomfortable. You postpone the new skill because you don't feel ready. And yet weeks pass, then months, and you wake up one day feeling restless, unfulfilled, and you don't know why. Here's why. Growth is uncomfortable, always has been, always will be. And the longer you avoid discomfort, the more you delay your own transformation. Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. It's true. The pain of the workout is never as bad as the guilt of skipping it. The sting of the truth is never as lasting as the burden of dishonesty. The effort to start is never as heavy as the regret of not starting. So here's the paradox. The more you avoid discomfort, the less free you become. Because now discomfort has power over you. It dictates your choices. It controls your energy. It shrinks your world. True freedom isn't found in escaping discomfort. It's found in choosing discomfort with purpose. Freedom is the ability to say, yes, this is hard, but I'm still showing up. Yes, this hurts, but it's part of my growth. Yes, I'm scared, but I refuse to be owned by fear. Because if you only move when it's easy, you'll never move when it matters. And if you only act when it's convenient, you'll miss everything that's meaningful. So let's reframe it. Discipline isn't the enemy of freedom. It's the escape route. It's the key that unlocks the door of the prison you built from comfort. When you wake up early, even when you don't want to, that's freedom. When you push your body and mind beyond the urge to quit, that's freedom. When you make the hard call instead of ghosting someone, that's freedom. Because you're no longer driven by impulse. You're guided by values. You're not trapped by moods. You're anchored in purpose. Here's something to reflect on. Have you confused comfort with peace? They're not the same. Peace is what happens after you've done the hard thing. Comfort is what you settle for instead of the hard thing. Peace comes from alignment. Comfort often comes from avoidance. And here's the tricky part. Comfort can mimic peace. It can pretend to be healing. It can feel right because it's familiar. But deep down, you know the difference. You feel it. You feel it when you lie in bed avoiding what matters. You feel it when you scroll past your own potential. You feel it when you say, I'm okay, but something inside whispers, you're stuck. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations in a cozy villa. He wrote it in war camps. He led Rome through plague and invasion. He lived among discomfort and yet remained free inside. Why? Because his freedom wasn't external. It was rooted in self-mastery, in choosing virtue over comfort, in showing up for life, even when it wasn't easy or fair. We forget this today. We think freedom is a soft life, free of resistance. But the Stoics knew better. They trained themselves to lean into discomfort, not out of masochism, but out of wisdom. Because every time you voluntarily face discomfort, you reclaim a piece of your power. You expand the walls of your cage. You remember who you are beneath the excuses. So ask yourself, what have you been avoiding lately while calling it self-care? What hard thing have you labeled as not the right time? What would change if you did the uncomfortable thing today? Sometimes the thing you're avoiding isn't dangerous. It's just unfamiliar, uncomfortable, challenging. But that's exactly where your next level lives. Discipline isn't punishment. It's permission. Permission to rise. Permission to evolve. Permission to break free from the smallness comfort has placed around you. So if you've been feeling stuck, ask yourself, are you being held back by life or by your own unwillingness to be uncomfortable? This week, choose one thing that makes you uncomfortable, but you know it would move your life forward. Do it, even if it's messy, even if it's small, because each act of purposeful discomfort is a step out of the prison of comfort and a step into the freedom you've been craving. Real freedom isn't always soft. Sometimes it begins with a hard choice, but that choice is your key. Discipline as a daily practice of liberation. Let me ask you something simple, yet life-changing. What if your freedom doesn't arrive in one grand breakthrough, but in the quiet, invisible things you choose to do every morning? We often think of freedom as a destination, a reward we'll finally reach after a big achievement. But real freedom, it's not something you wait for. It's something you build, brick by brick, through discipline, every day. And no, not through perfection, not through willpower alone, but through intentional, repeatable practices that say, I choose who I'm becoming. Imagine this. A man wakes up at 5:30 a.m. He doesn't scroll. He doesn't rush. He sits quietly, breathes, reflects in a journal, moves his body, clears his mind. Maybe he doesn't feel like it, but he does it anyway. Why? Because those simple acts whisper something powerful. I govern myself, not my impulses, not my mood, not the outside world, him. He doesn't need the world to go easy on him because he's trained to stand strong. That is freedom, and that freedom is built every single day. Discipline isn't about punishment or restriction. It's about reclaiming control over your energy and where it flows. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, whether it's finishing a workout, reading 10 pages, or saying no to something that doesn't align, you're casting a vote for the person you want to be. And with every vote, you build the emotional muscle of self-trust. Because freedom isn't doing whatever you feel like. Freedom is knowing that no matter how you feel, you'll do what needs to be done. The Stoics lived this truth. They didn't just talk about virtue. They practiced it daily, deliberately, devotionally. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations once and call it done. He journaled constantly, reminding himself of what mattered, correcting his thoughts, honing his intentions. It was his ritual of liberation, not from the chaos of Rome, but from the chaos within. Modern neuroscience now backs this up. Studies show that the more decisions we make, the more mentally fatigued we become. But rituals, habits, reduce that fatigue. They preserve willpower. They conserve clarity. They create structure in a world full of noise. And most importantly, they build long-term emotional resilience. Because here's the truth nobody likes to hear. If you don't build structure for your day, the world will build it for you. And the world doesn't care about your purpose. The world wants your attention, your reaction, your time. That's why discipline isn't just a tool. It's a boundary, a shield, a way of saying, my life is mine. Think of it like this. Every act of discipline, every habit kept, every morning routine followed, every moment of stillness carved into a noisy day is like laying down a brick. You don't see the result overnight, but keep laying those bricks. And one day you realize you've built something solid, a life, a mind, a self you can rely on. That's the quiet liberation no one talks about. Now let's be honest, you won't always feel like doing it. You'll want to hit snooze, skip the workout, break the habit, and some days you might. But the difference is, you notice, you recalibrate, you return. Discipline isn't about never slipping. It's about never staying down. You don't need a perfect streak. You need a steady return to your path. So ask yourself, what would happen if you treated your mornings like sacred ground? What would shift if you built one non-negotiable practice just for you? What kind of strength could you cultivate if you repeated that one thing for 30 days straight? Because ultimately, no one else can give you your freedom. They can remove your chains. They can open the door. But you're the one who has to walk out. And walking out takes discipline. Your morning routine isn't small. It's a declaration, a quiet rebellion, a message to your future self that says, you're worth the effort. You're worth the consistency. You're worth showing up for. And when that message becomes your ritual, you don't just become more productive, you become more peaceful, more powerful, more you. So today, don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the stars to align. Pick one simple practice and start. Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Journal a sentence. Stretch. Walk. Breathe. Lay the brick. And tomorrow, lay another. Because over time, discipline doesn't confine you. It sets you free. Freedom from emotional slavery. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation wishing you hadn't said what you just said? Maybe your words exploded before your wisdom could catch up. Maybe you reacted out of pride, fear, or ego. And later, when the storm passed, you realized you weren't in control. Your emotions were. We all have moments like this. But here's the deeper question. Are you truly free if your mood decides your words? If your triggers own your actions? The Stoics would say no, because freedom isn't about saying whatever comes to mind. It's about knowing when not to. Freedom begins with restraint, with silence, with space between what you feel and what you do with it. Emotional slavery looks like this. You're constantly triggered. Someone cuts you off and your blood boils. Someone disagrees and you feel personally attacked. You can't sleep because you're replaying every argument in your mind. You're not choosing your peace. You're reacting to everything that tries to steal it. That's not strength. That's bondage to anger, to insecurity, to ego. And the price? Your inner clarity, your relationships, your power. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. He didn't say control your emotions by force. He said master your mind because that's where freedom lives. When you develop emotional discipline, you don't become cold. You become clear. You learn to observe before reacting. You feel deeply, but you don't let your feelings drive your decisions. That's the difference between reacting and responding. Think about this. You're in a heated moment. Someone says something cruel. Your instinct wants to clap back, defend, destroy. But something inside you pauses, takes a breath, and says, no, I choose peace. I don't need to prove anything. That moment, that pause, is emotional freedom in action. Because true strength is not in the punch, it's in the restraint. And that kind of strength doesn't come naturally. It's trained, it's earned, it's discipline. Modern psychology calls this emotional regulation. The Stoics called it virtue. And the science agrees. People with higher emotional regulation experience less anxiety, make better decisions, and live with more confidence. Why? Because they aren't tossed around by every passing wave. They're anchored. And when storms come, they stay grounded. Let's be honest, though, this isn't easy. We live in a world that celebrates instant reaction, comment wars, outbursts, rage. People clap for the loudest voice, not the wisest one. But wisdom is quiet. Wisdom waits. Wisdom doesn't need validation. And wisdom only comes when you learn to sit with your feelings without being controlled by them. So ask yourself, what if every emotional reaction costs you your freedom? What if real confidence is the ability to stay silent even when provoked? What would change if your peace couldn't be stolen by someone else's chaos? Because here's the truth, not everything needs a response. Not every insult needs defense. Not every emotion deserves to lead. Freedom isn't about being numb. It's about being so rooted in your values that nothing can shake you. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to win every argument to feel worthy. You don't need to be right to be whole. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing, just silence. Grounded, calm, unbothered silence. The kind that says, I know who I am. I don't need to react to prove it. Let me leave you with this. Freedom doesn't mean you'll never feel anger, fear, or pain again. It means you won't be ruled by them. You'll feel them and still choose your highest self. You'll witness them and still walk away with grace. Because in the end, the most dangerous form of slavery isn't external. It's the one that hides inside your mind. And the only way to break free is to master it. If this resonates with you, let it sit in your heart today. And maybe the next time you're triggered, you'll remember you don't have to react. You're free to choose something better. That's emotional freedom. That's real power. That's what the Stoics live for. Financial, physical, and mental freedom equals daily self-discipline. Let me offer you a simple truth, one that most people ignore, not because it's hidden, but because it's hard. Every kind of freedom you want, financial, physical, mental, comes with a cost. And that cost is daily discipline. There's no shortcut around it, no manifestation hack, no feel-good philosophy that makes the grind disappear. If you want real freedom, you have to earn it, one small intentional decision at a time. Let's start with the one most people chase, financial freedom. People dream of being wealthy, quitting their job, living life on their own terms. But behind every financially free person is someone who made disciplined choices for years. It's not just about making more money. It's about managing what you already have. It's about saying no to impulse buys, tracking what you spend, and investing in your future when it's more tempting to indulge in the present. Ask yourself, do you really need that thing? Or are you trying to soothe a deeper discomfort with a temporary dopamine hit? Freedom doesn't come from earning more. It comes from spending with clarity and saving with intention. That's Stoic financial wisdom. Use money as a tool, not as an emotional escape. Now let's talk about something we feel every single day: your body. Want to move freely as you age? Want to have energy, endurance, strength? Then freedom looks like discipline in disguise. It's the discipline to get out of bed and train, even when you'd rather sleep. It's choosing whole food when processed junk is quicker. It's giving your body proper rest when hustle culture tells you to keep grinding. Physical freedom is the ability to move without pain, to live without being dependent on medications, surgeries, or constant fatigue. But it doesn't happen by accident. It's built through thousands of small decisions. That morning walk, that skipped soda, that early bedtime. Discipline is the quiet architect of physical strength. And when your body becomes a reliable ally, not a daily obstacle, that's freedom. And finally, the most overlooked of them all: mental freedom. You can have money in the bank and six-pack abs, but if your mind is drowning in anxiety, distractions, and noise, are you truly free? Mental freedom is the ability to focus, to think clearly, to feel peace when the world is chaotic. And that kind of freedom, it comes from what you feed your mind. Do you read or do you scroll? Do you journal or do you vent to strangers online? Do you reflect or do you react? You can't expect mental clarity if you consume garbage all day. Your mind, like your body, becomes what you train it to be. And just like a Stoic philosopher sitting down with a scroll, we too must choose what enters our mental space. Filter it, curate it, guard it. Because peace of mind is the product of mental discipline. So what does this all mean? It means freedom isn't a feeling, it's a result. The result of your habits, the reflection of your priorities. And the uncomfortable truth is this: every freedom you desire is the result of 1,000 small disciplined choices. That workout you didn't skip, that dollar you saved, that book you read instead of scrolling, that time you stayed silent instead of arguing. They might seem small, they might seem invisible to others, but over time, they compound into a life of power, clarity, and peace. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And wasting time doesn't just mean being lazy. It means living reactively, without structure, without awareness. Discipline, on the other hand, reclaims time. It tells your money where to go. It tells your body how to show up. It tells your mind what to prioritize. Discipline is not about punishment. It's about freedom with boundaries. It's saying, I care enough about my future to act with intention today. So here's your invitation. Start where you are. Pick one area, financial, physical, or mental, and make a promise to yourself. A small promise, something you'll do daily, not to impress anyone, but to slowly, quietly build your freedom. Because the real reward of self-discipline isn't perfection. It's liberation. It's self-respect. It's waking up one day and realizing, I govern myself now, no one else. And that is the greatest freedom of all. The hidden joy of self-discipline. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt real peace? Not just the absence of noise, but the quiet confidence that comes from within. For many, peace feels distant. It's something they chase in vacations, weekend escapes, or temporary highs. But the truth is this: peace doesn't come from escaping life. It comes from mastering how you live it. And that mastery, it begins with self-discipline. We've been conditioned to believe that discipline is rigid, boring, even joyless. But that's not true. Discipline doesn't steal your joy. It creates space for a deeper one. The kind of joy that's earned, not borrowed. Let's reframe what discipline really is. It's not punishment, it's alignment between who you are and who you're becoming. Disciplined people don't act because they're always motivated. They act because they've made a quiet decision. I don't want to fight with myself every day. You know the internal tug of war I'm talking about. I should do this, but I don't feel like it. I want to be better, but I'm tired. I'll start tomorrow. That mental noise, it's exhausting. And worse, it eats away at your self-trust. Discipline silences that war, not by force, but by clarity. It says, this is who I am. This is what I do. No drama, no debate, just movement. And over time, that kind of clarity brings a peace that external comfort can never match. Now let's talk about something most people don't realize. The most disciplined people are often the most joyful. They're not walking around with clenched jaws and color-coded planners just to impress anyone. They've simply built lives that run on alignment. Take someone with strong daily habits, journaling, meditating, training, eating clean. They don't live in pressure. They live in flow. Their energy isn't wasted on deciding what matters every day because they've already decided. And that structure, it simplifies their lives. It frees up mental space. It builds momentum. That's where joy grows, not in chaos, but in the quiet rhythm of self-respect. Think of discipline like tending a garden. Every habit is a seed. At first, you don't see much. It's repetitive, it's slow, it's unglamorous. But over time, roots form, then sprouts, then blossoms. And one day, without needing to chase happiness, you wake up in a life you've quietly cultivated. A life that feels good, not because it's perfect, but because you trust yourself inside of it. That's what most people are missing. Not more pleasure, but more self-trust. And self-trust is a byproduct of consistent discipline. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's discipline, not just in action, but in speech, in thought, in values. A kind of integrity that produces freedom. Freedom from regret, freedom from overthinking, freedom from the pain of betraying your own standards. People think freedom means doing whatever you want, but true freedom means you no longer sabotage yourself. You don't fight your habits. You don't break promises to yourself. You're not at war with your mind every morning. That's not restrictive. That's liberating. Now here's the question worth asking. What would your life feel like if you didn't have to negotiate with yourself every day? What would your mornings feel like if you simply moved in alignment with who you say you are? That's the hidden joy most people overlook. Not the thrill of a new dopamine hit, but the steady, unshakable joy of waking up proud of how you live. And it's available to you, not through massive transformation, but through daily devotion. So here's your invitation. Choose one habit that aligns with your highest self. Just one. And don't wait to feel like it. Do it because it's who you're becoming. Because you are not meant to live in a state of constant internal conflict. You are not meant to carry the guilt of inconsistency. You are meant to live with clarity, with flow, with a kind of peace that isn't loud, but lasts. And that peace begins where excuses end. In the still, powerful moment where you say, I choose discipline, not as restriction, but as freedom. And that choice, that's where the real joy begins. Final reflection. Discipline is self-respect. Let's slow down for a moment. Take a breath. Let all the noise settle, because what you're about to hear isn't just a lesson. It's a mirror held up to your daily choices. to how you show up for yourself, to whether you're living like someone who truly deserves freedom, and not just external freedom, but the kind that starts within. Here's the truth that most people overlook. Discipline isn't about control. It's about self-respect. It's a quiet message you send to yourself every time you rise early when no one's watching, every time you say no to what numbs you, every time you commit to something that grows you, even when it's hard, even when it's slow. Discipline says, I am someone worth showing up for. Most people wait for motivation, or for life to get easier, or for the right moment to begin. But that delay carries a silent insult. I'm not ready yet. I'm not worth the effort yet. What if you stop waiting? What if you made discipline not about proving something, but about honoring something? Honoring the fact that your life matters. Honoring the fact that your time is limited. Honoring the voice inside you that whispers, I was made for more than this. Marcus Aurelius once said, a man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. But the Stoics went even deeper. They believed that a life of virtue, self-governance, and clarity was the highest form of ambition. Not fame, not applause, not ease, but self-mastery, to govern yourself, to command your thoughts, to live with integrity even when no one else is looking. That to them was honor. That to them was freedom. So I ask you now, as honestly as I can, are you living like someone who deserves real freedom? Not just the freedom to do what you want, but the freedom to become who you're meant to be? Because that kind of freedom isn't found in comfort. It isn't found in indulgence. It's not in the scrolling or the escaping or the avoiding. It's found in discipline, in the daily act of saying, I will not betray myself today, even in small ways. You don't need to change everything at once. You don't need to be perfect or superhuman or rigid. You just need to start with one disciplined act. Today, just one. Wake up when you said you would. Move your body, eat something that fuels you. Read a page. Say no to something that weakens you, or yes to something that stretches you. One small act. Not because you have to, but because you're worth it. Discipline isn't the enemy of freedom. It's the path to it. It doesn't make your life smaller. It makes you bigger, more grounded, more focused, more alive. Because when you live with discipline, you don't just keep promises to the world. You keep promises to yourself. And that's the foundation of real confidence, real peace, real self-worth. So here's your invitation. Right now, don't just think about this video. Act on it. Choose one disciplined thing. Do it today. Let it be a quiet act of revolution. Let it be your first brick toward a life of inner freedom. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are someone who deserves a life that means something. And discipline, that's how you prove it, to yourself. So here we are. You've listened, reflected, maybe even recognized yourself in these words. And now there's a choice to make. Not a big one, not a dramatic one, but a quiet, powerful one. Today, don't chase freedom like it's some faraway thing. Don't wait until you feel ready, confident, or perfectly in control. Practice it, because real freedom, lasting, grounded, inner freedom, isn't something you stumble into. It's something you build moment by moment through self-respect. Start small, one push-up, one truth spoken, one distraction turned off, one promise kept. That's all it takes. One small act of self-discipline is not just a routine, it's a declaration, a signal to yourself that you're no longer negotiating with your excuses, that you're no longer chasing comfort over growth, that you're not waiting for the world to hand you peace, because you've decided to create it within. And if you do this consistently, quietly, with intention, you won't just feel better. You'll become better, more focused, more resilient, more free. So let today be the day you stop chasing and start practicing. Because your future doesn't begin in some distant moment. It begins with the next decision you make. Go make it count.